don't know, it's not just when you die. Heaven here on earth, heaven in the sky. It's some money here if you know how to float it. Fly, fly, fly. One love and wellness. Welcome to the next episode of Heart Happy Hour. Our precious mother love. I want you to hear something in this song. Make it better. It's so better if you do it all in your mind. Think it through and make it go to the rhyme. If you want to see it, you gotta say the word. It's not the monkey, it's the bird that heard. Thought that is Trace McGinty's Hermes. I already told ya, yeah. It's the time of the time. No gravity in your mind. You gotta sing. Let's see if I can get this to go down quickly enough. Welcome to Heart Happy Hour. One love and wellness. Our precious mother love. You're listening to me in the background. Oh man, I was trying to be smooth about it and make it a slow go on the way out. But one love and wellness. Let's get it started. We're going to talk about, I have a poem today called Lumpy Soup. I want to talk more about time. We talked about Easter, April Fool's Day, nature's natural new year. Now I want to talk about time as we start to look at the macro, look at it more on the celestial sense, astrological, astronomical, cosmological. I want to make sure that we include the big picture, because as above, so below is, like they say, the atoms are connected. If it's here, it's also affected there. The same way, the same premise. Okay, so we're talking about that type of time, and we're going to expand on it a little bit. We're also going to talk about, let me pull up my list. I also have a fun fact about dreams that I learned about that I want to share. I think it'll be, and I never thought about it before. I learned it on, I'm a member of a Hermetic group on Facebook, and this one guy brought this up, and I'll tell you about it. It's related to dreams. And then we'll also talk about the vibe of planets and the fifth word of wellness. And before we go, we're going to talk about part 2 of Mr. Charlie. I don't know if it'll be a part 3, but part 2 of Mr. Charlie. We left off on the last episode. We got to the first words of wellness, the first 4 words of wellness. So we'll get to the 5th one, and we'll do part 2 on Mr. Charlie. Plus, I actually want to talk about something related to death and dying, and about the energy that this vessel harbors and keeps. Well, anyway, we'll talk more about how my super sensitivities have tuned me into the frequency of death and dying. I've had a lot of it happen around me, so I've had a lot of chances to study. I'm on this science of self kick, and through all of this is about self-love, because for self-love, for me, I am loving up on myself more so than ever. Not that I never did, not that I didn't do it on the regular, but now I take it to new levels, to the new heights, to the place where I take care of me first. I'll put the mask on myself first, and then I'll be able to help other people. But right now, the main thing is this vessel, and this vessel is important to me and has a mission. So here we are, we're on a mission. One love and wellness. Let's get to the poem, Lumpy Soup. And I'll also tell you about Sacred Art Curator. That's the name that I have taken on before or after the poem. Let's do it before. Sacred Art Curation. What I do, I explained to a young lady today that if it were that she were to have received the information that I now harbor, and this is always said, but to the degree of the self-science, to the degree of healing, and knowing that our bodies have a natural healing capabilities, and knowing that it all starts in the mind, knowing that creation is something that we are able to do with utilizing some of the God spark energy to make and create and be talented and to multiply and expand the use of the art of or the arts. For numerous reasons, there's healing arts, there's military martial arts, there's the art of war, there's the art of love. There's so many types of art, culinary arts. There's so many creative ways for us to expand our God spark. And I am a vessel that has been able to experience a lot of the different types of creation. I mean, I could list it and it would go on really seriously. But what I like to do is to help people to be able to get in touch with that God spark within themselves and be able to, I mean, you can go back and heal traumas. You can actually heal relationships. You can actually heal your finances. You can heal, get to a place of feng shui. That's kind of how I use my 5 words of wellness, which I will discuss the 5th word, which actually incorporates all of them. So let's go to Lumpy Soup. So this was, I did not finish this until yesterday. Well, actually, if you really, really want to be honest, and I always am, I just finished it just before because I thought I was finished yesterday, and something came to me intuitively about certain words that I used to change those words so that they were more esoterical instead of symbolic, like to say the word enlightenment instead of to say the word elevate your consciousness. So instead of something that is, well, anyway, that's what came to me. So this is Lumpy Soup. Let's go to the first page, and it's short, it's not long. So Lumpy Soup. For centuries, the senses sent signs so light could be seen and keen to influence the here and now. The goulash is thick as thieves, and the air is pregnant with potential. How far can you see, sense, or smell your visions? Macroscope, telescope, fine-tune the monsoon flooding the gates of fate into a state to find a grind of divine descent. A hint of full flavor in one sip, detecting and selecting the fine print, and smelling the scent of well-blended condiments. Garlic, ginger, salty sweet treats, words to encourage the robust reach, and butter to smooth the edges as the aromas trigger buds that blast past and boost the soup with quick whiffs of the mix that sticks to the roof of your proverbial pie hole. A whole lot in that first bite that lingers and drips like sin to the fingers and chin. What was meant to enter the mouth and circulate throughout, then transmutes. An alchemical delight, conversion from words to your naked truth, leaking out of your pores, excreting unneeded or toxic, making goofy noises like poots, dumps, and bumps, broken down to organic waste, to eliminate the food for thought. Meals made from the heart slips a drip of soul in the bowl and boils down to your roots. The DNA is a recipe that's served for generations, making alterations of evolved proof, of kindled and fire sticks, starting it, downloading it to perfection, with homegrown corrections, detecting rights from the heirloom blooms. What is spinning on your potter's wheel is lumpy soup. In your kettle, don't settle, 'cause in the flavor of today's special is the proof of your truth. And it's called lumpy soup. Snap, 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 clap, clap, clap for another one in the books. So, One Love and Wellness, let's talk about this poem. What was it about? And what did I have to say? And what was it? Symbolism of some of these things. Okay. So, we're all kind of, we've got a little bit of this in us, we got a little bit of that in us. Uh, I am multicultural. I've got a very multicultural background, and so I claim that. So I considered myself for years a mutt. Because I didn't, eventually we began calling ourselves multicultural. And that was probably even before I even thought of it, that it came to me. But the fact that all I knew as a child what to say, because I knew about dogs. We had dogs that we raised. And so I knew that that was a term that could be used for mixed breeds. So that is some of what it boils down to. But, it's just talking about the process, of how to include and exclude and how to utilize, certain times, certain condiments or certain flavors are needed for certain recipes. Not everything, all your flavors and condiments that's in your cabinet, they don't go into every recipe, so it's a fine tuning over the years of what works and what is best for you. Sometimes it's passed down generational and you tweak it to yourself, and then other times, the same way with what you're taught as a child, you learn those things and then you tweak what's best for you, and then you pass that down to your child. So over years and over generations, it evolves into what then becomes the next generation's lessons. But then also, because I'm actually, now that I'm a grandmother, I'm passing down stuff. So, it's the sumpy loop. The lumpy soup, is metaphysically delicious, because I have I have some Indian and innate things that I've learned from that background. I have some other roots that I have pulled from, and things that have been passed down through my heritage and my grandmothers and so on. So on to the next subject. After our poem, we will be talking about time. So let's get to the time part of this process, because, Mother's Day was just this past week, and sorry for the pages that might be making some noise. I mean, I'm kind of happy that you hear it, but I'm not happy that I have to make that noise for you, because that just means that you can hear very well, hopefully. And hopefully the pages don't distract you too badly. So my apologies in advance for any page turning that you might hear, because I make notes and I'm paying attention to what's put on my heart to present to you. And so that I won't forget it, I detail it, outline it. And so now I am just trying to make sure I stay a little more organized with my thoughts and how I present things to you, because the way they come to me aren't in any linear fashion. It's a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, and by the time I finish, it's a whole segment worth of information. So let's talk about time, because we've already talked about time is an illusion. It's actually just a tool that we use in various ways. But like the military has their way of speaking in time and distance, because the formula for time, I think, is time over distance, or time over space, which is the distance. Um, Distance over space. Oh, shucks. Now I don't have the formula correct, but I said it in one of my last videos. So where we are now is that, nature has its own way of timing. For instance, have you ever heard Thunder and lightning. When thunder happens, usually what I was told and what I've seen as a measurement is that when the lightning strikes, and then you can count clicks or whatever you want to count, which is like what the military does. The military does clicks, but when you count that amount and then you hear the thunder, that indicates just how far it is. So if you see lightning and you hear thunder, then boom, you right underneath that cloud. And it is right there. That is one way of nature's measuring or being able to measure certain things in nature, or like our senses are able to measure. Like for instance, how we do time, the sundial. The sun is in motion, and so if you know that it does this every day and you are watching it, one of the ways to keep track is says, okay, well, at when I get up in the morning, it's over the tree. After I've eaten my breakfast and done my day's work, it ready for my lunch, it's over the pond. And then once I'm ready to finish for the day, it's on the other side of the field. And so by the time I'm ready to go to bed, then it's finally falling down behind the back of the house, the sunset. So, so this is nature's way. This is one way to work with nature and being able to identify the time. Now that we've gotten away from that type of identification for us to synchronize with the natural cycle of things, now we are, it causes a lot of stress for people to have to be able to be punctual for things that if the timing doesn't feel right. And I have a couple of people who, again, I refer to as subject matter experts, but they use various tools to assist them. Is it time for this and is it time for that? One of the things I can say that I have used is it called kinesis? Yeah, I think it's kinesis. So you use your body as the tool, and you use your you can use. I say it out loud, but I also have done it where I think it in my mind. But ask my body, what is my yes and what is my no? And to be very honest, it is not always forward and backwards. Sometimes it's side, or sometimes it's something else jittering or something else twitching or something else, because you're engaging your body and your mind. And so when you're telling yourself, hey, I want to use my body as a tool, everybody wants to get in on the act at some point. If you are able to, focus well enough and be still for a moment and ask your question. So you start with, telling yourself what is your yes, what is your no. You don't tell yourself, just yourself tells you. The spirit actually utilizes muscle control to indicate to you. So you find out what your yes and your no is and start asking some questions. And so that is one of the ways that you can find out, is it time for this? Is it time for that? Is it time for this? Yes or no? And it could be all kinds of other questions that you ask. But, yes and no questions are easier to get results from. And the more clear and specific you are about those questions, the more recognizable your answer will be. And speaking of being clear and specific, that is the same way you need to be when you're doing, I have these classes that I teach. We do vision board or dream book classes, and we also do them virtually. So, what we do is I have like a 5-part process. It started with 3. I went to my mentor's class, Billy Carson, to his class in Fort Lauderdale, and added a few more things to it. I had already been doing a meditation. I changed my meditation a little bit. I had already been doing some of the questions, but I tweaked some of the questions in the ways that some of the commitment that you have to make for what he had us to utilize. And then, so I'm not going to tell you the whole process, but it is like being able to rescript your life, or to use the golden pen to rescript or prescript or per script, so that you can forecast your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, and achieve and manifest. All right, so in further talking about time and how it relates to Mother's Day, now I am, I observed that, okay, so first you have the water bearer, so the water, and then the fish, and then you have you see, all of these things are symbolic, and it's leading up to when, at 9 months, the Virgin, Virgo, Mother Earth, or the Earth sign, which happens to be my sign, so I know a little bit about that. But I believe that each month there is something going on. And so even though we say Mother's Day is now, usually between 4 and 5 months of the gestation, you're starting to really show, you're starting to be, so that you can call yourself a mother now. And so Mother's Day, I think that there is like a family reunion going on of planets. There are 4 planets and the moon that are lining up at this point. I think that the timing of this is crucial for where we are now, including with some of the international discord that happens to be going on. Some of that can be looked at in a cosmological way as making some sense, but that also means that we have some ways to work around some of this stuff. And now that we know what we're dealing with, we can now, utilize other tools in our box to get around this, like when we do, as far as the Mercury retrograde, which is starting on today, which is May 10th, and it will be until June the 5th in retrograde. It'll go direct, but it'll be felt until about the 14th of June. I don't know why, but this is me doing my research. Okay, so the 5 planets that will line up at this time that are coming to this family reunion. So we have, let's see, where did we put those 5 planets? Pardon me for the noisy. Okay, so the 5 planets are, first comes Saturn, and Saturn is associated with Capricorn. Then comes Mars, which is associated with Aries. Then comes Venus, which is associated with Taurus. Then is Jupiter, which is associated with the Sagittarius sign, and then the moon, which is also Cancer. And like I said, Mercury is in retrograde right now, and that is Gemini and Virgo's home planet, or the planet for that astrological sign. So now what this kind of lineup, let me tell you where you can find it in the sky. You look 1 hour before sunrise, look southeast of the sunrise. 1 hour before sunrise in your wherever, and I didn't get a fine tuning of exactly where that was, but see, I believe those planets are far enough away that that instruction might be true for a good portion of, well, related to the sunrise. So in any case, 1 hour before sunrise, make sure you look in the southeast direction of the sunrise, and you will see these planets lining up, if not already lined up. Then in June, a 5th planet comes about, and I think that's Neptune. I believe that's Neptune that's coming. So I also wanted to talk about the atmospheric, planetary atmospheres. So we have a weather pattern or some atmosphere around our planet, which is also influenced by the cosmological, the bigger picture. The macro definitely affects the micro. So our weather, you can look at space weather, and I don't know if it's called spaceweather.com, but I know NASA has a couple of ways for you to be able to tune into the bigger picture of, the space weather and or whatever else is going on. I didn't look at how many space launches that there were going to be attempted in the month of May. But I do know, and I talked about it on the last issue, I believe it was 8 in January, 8 in February, 19 in March, and it just goes on from there, 21 or something like that in April. But in May, Our weather patterns are set off or skewed because of us piercing this ozone layer. So, and that could also allow certain energies to be accentuated or influenced, which are the potential of viruses, the potential of emissions of radiation, all kinds of things that can influence us. And oh, by the way, do you remember when initially we talked about that the pandemic was initially begun related to, it was talked about the towers, it was talked about that it was from bats. But I have since seen some research that shows me that the bats are thrown off by the sonic emanations from a lot of towers, and they produce false signals to them. Certain birds like pigeons have what's called magnetite in their brain, which is a type of magnet. It allows them to navigate the lands. And I believe a lot of animals have that kind of thing because they're able to sense the energy of the earth, which is probably one of the reasons why they're super sensitive to a distance, because they're actually tuned into Gaia, Mother Earth. They're tuned in to the frequency that the earth is emitting, which all planets do. So all of these planets have these emanations that creates an atmosphere. And I was watching something the other day, and I concur and agree that we too have an atmosphere. I was watching an interview with, I was going to say Dr. Carson, with Billy Carson, and another, I think it's called 19 Keys. Ooh, that was a dynamite, that was a fire interview. But to build on something that I've talked about, as far as, when you walk in the room, your frequency, your vibe, your energy, people can read that, depending on how sensitive you are. The closer you are, the more you'll feel it. The farther you are, the less you'll feel it, unless you're tuned into and have some capabilities of how to use your super sensitivities, your sacred senses, your higher level tuning into abilities, your ability to tune in to the higher realm of senses. If you're able to do that, then you can do it at a closer range. You can actually do it at a farther range. You can send messages across the I want to say universe. I was about to say the universe, because I believe that some of the things that I am receiving, some of the data that I am accepting, receiving, am open to, is actually allowing me to have some clarity on some things that I don't think that it's of, it's me. It's like me tuning into the internet or to the web or to the worldwide web of things without the internet, or without, because the signals are there. The signals in the air. The air is pregnant with potential. It's another piece from my poem. So I feel that timing is something that is individual, but it is also a natural timing that we can tune into, that will also help us to be able to gauge a better sense of, as we begin to develop our science of self, as we begin to become masters of our own science, the science of our own existence. Then I believe we're able to tune into, you're able to relate to more, because you know more about yourself, to be able to know more about others. I mean, I am you, you are me. And the more I know about me, the more I know about you. Okay. All right. So that was in reference to celestial time. And we tied it into Mother's Day by talking about it like the family reunion sort of situation. Because, a lot of times these particular holidays, these holy days are built on things, energies, timing, particular occurrences that we don't pay as much attention to. But the sciences of our forefathers is still being applied, just like in the Farmer's Almanac. There are things that, which has somewhat changed. It's not as, I think it has changed. I don't know if it has evolved for the better or not. And oh, by the way, I just saw the little jingle. Look, I got my, this is what I wore. I had a show this weekend where I opened for Harold Melvin's Blue Notes. And so I made these for that night especially. And so it's only been worn once. You know, I wear my crown. But love plus art equals wellness. These are some of my creations just from a few days ago. And just thought I'd share it with you. You know, you can always look me up or Google me and I will be available for you. So we want to talk about Mr. Charlie and the fifth word of wellness. And I'm not sure if I'll get to the word that I had wanted to share with you this from my signs and symptoms book, because that's a very, very heavy word. The word that I had decided to use. I had actually recorded my whole segment yesterday. And after I said that word, the whole thing was deleted. And this is just from my computer. I mean, this isn't from me doing anything from the outside. So it has power. That word has the word. If I am able to bring this word into my conversation with you today, by the grace of God, the grace of the God in me, then it's going to be hot and heavy. Okay, so let's get to part two of Mr. Charlie. So Mr. Charlie, where we left off at was that I'd met this guy that was very persistent. Eventually, over time, I accepted his offer to give him my number. It was like 15 times that night. Hey, how you doing? You know, can I send away with you? Can I, let's come over here and talk to me. Blah 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 blah. And it's a huge house. I was at a major producer's house here in the Maryland, D.C. area. And this guy was his brother. The guy's name is Mr. Charlie. So Charlie, he was a exotic jewelry maker, African bone bead jewelry, and he made all the furniture in his house. And so one night after making me a gourmet meal, all my favorites, he decided, and I am almost certain now that he decided this. Maybe I have this site, or maybe he decided to show me. So I believe he decided to show me. I know I have the site, but this time I believe Shorty showed it to me. So I'm walking past him, and just as I walk past, this thing comes out, and it's got a snout, and it's slippery, wet, and dripping, and the teeth are huge, the head is huge, and I am not sure how much I showed it, but I know I did not show it very much as far as this, the shock of what I saw. I'm like, I saw this and I kept walking. I went into the kitchen. I just started to do what I needed to finish in there. I came back out, not lingering too long, but pondering it while I was there, coming back out. So he leans back and he tells me how he gave his life to the devil. And he's showing it to me. He made all his furniture in this place, but he also made this mirror. So he's showing me in this mirror, like a movie, the whole episode. So I saw him, his wife died. He became a pimp. He got depressed. He started doing drugs. And in the middle of him pimping, he said he was out doing skating, watching his strollers. And he took him to go to the IHOP. They went to the IHOP, and as he passed the mirror episode happened where he was propositioned. I will give you all your riches, all your wildest dreams, if you just do some work for me. And so he did some work for him, and one of his assignments was me. And so what he decided after he told me, the story, I saw the show, the incident in the mirror. We had a short conversation. And I just said, hey, we ended the night in a really odd way, but I was like, look, I got to get up in the morning. This is a lot. This is heavy. I got to go get me some rest. I got me some rest. And so the next morning, at that time I was in the church very, 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 very heavy. So I had a lot of religious people around me. I was going to say spiritual, but they were religious. These were dogmatics. And so, I mean, and nothing wrong with that, because that is something that I needed at some point. I mean, I've taken the Shahada, so I've actually, participated very heavily in Apostolic, in Baptist, in Catholic, dipped and dabbed in a variety of other things. Not to say that I would call myself those things, but I studied them firsthand, up close and personal. So I incorporated the best of those things in who I represent myself as. I don't claim any denomination. I don't claim, any school of thought except for my own. And whatever resonates with me, that's the way that I go. I don't feel that I'm obligated to join any particular group except for social purposes. And I'm hoping that I'm finding, them to be like-minded, because then I can be myself, which is, the most natural feeling that I would want, from those that I would be in a social situation with. I would want to feel that I could be naturally myself and accepted for who I am, which, I'm kind of oddballish. I'm slightly tame on here in this way that I present myself. But when I go on stage, or when I decide that, there's certain times that I dress a certain way because of the spirit, the energy, the vibe, the frequency that I carry at that time. There are times when I feel like I'm I'm the brightest bulb in the pack. And when I walk in the room, the whole room changes. I've had that happen where people tell me, because I, I speak about the elephant in the room. I don't try to sweep it under the rug. I go straight for the jugular. And not to say that I do it with, I'm artful. I am able to, surgically apply the scalpel so that we can pop that blister. Whatever's getting rubbed the wrong way. So anyway, so Mr. Charlie told me all these things. I gone to work the next morning. I took the two books with me. One was The Secret Codes of the Universe. So when I took the two books with me, I shared them with these religious people, and immediately they were afraid, scared. I wasn't scared. I was ready for that information. I was trying to read it as much as I could so I can decipher, and it was probably more like steak when I was ready for milk, but it sunk in, and it has taken some time to marinate and germinate. But in the meantime, so these religious people were saying, give this man back this information. This book is of the devil. So, light and dark, So I went to go take it back. I mean, about a week later, I went because I was really trying to absorb as much as I could from this information. So the following week, I went back. Charlie had called me, and I just couldn't bring myself to have any long conversations. Hey, I'm in the middle of something. I have to call you back. So I put him off for about a week. And finally, once I had gotten to a place where I felt like it's time, I can do this, I went back to his place. Now, I had been staying with him for a couple of weeks. I think more like 5 to 6 weeks, almost 2 months. And so I knew exactly where it was. I knew, because I had been parking there, and I knew where to park and so on. And I recognized where I was. So, but when I went to the building, to the front of the building, I decided, I knocked on the door. I did not want to call him. I just wanted to go in. I figured somebody would be coming and going, and I could just lay the books, next to the door, and he'd find them. I didn't want a whole rigmarole or big deal out of it. So I knocked on the door, couldn't get in. A couple times knocked and couldn't get in. So there's a window right next to the front door, where the doorway is. There was a window, so I knocked on that window and I says, "Hey, if you don't mind, I'd like to leave these books for, the gentleman upstairs. He had loaned me these, and I want to make sure I get them back to him. They're pretty valuable." And so she's like, "Gentlemen, there's no gentleman to live upstairs." And, I recall when I went to the building, there was a door at this end of the hall and a door at this end of the hall. And when we went in the building, there was a door in the middle. And so when I looked up into the hallway, because there's a glass pane on the door, when I looked up into the hallway, there was no door in the middle. I know it was the correct building. I know it was the correct place. I know where I had to park before, which is where I parked that day. And so this is before the Harry Potter movie came out. This to me, so it was kind of startling. I'm like, I know exactly where I am, and I know what I've been doing, what we've been doing. So I just left, and I realized that at that time that it was a Harry Potter situation because the door didn't appear to anyone else, and I've never been inside that door without having him with me to escort me. So I have to assume that he took me through, you know, into another dimension. And the thing is, I have been to other apartment buildings in this complex, and they're all the same way. At the two corners, that's where the building, the two doors are. And so there hasn't been one in the middle, and I observed like 5 or 6 different buildings in this complex, which was probably about maybe about 8 buildings. So I went into half the buildings, but I assumed after I had looked at enough of them that they were all that same way. So that door in the middle does not exist, did not exist. I went through some other realm. Now, did that again when I was my first time when I was 5 years old, and I kind of played this little game with myself because, as a child, you think as a child. So I says, well, if I am actually going somewhere, because I did it several times and, got to the point where I had to tell myself I'm like, well, if I really am going somewhere, I'm going to take something with me, something tangible with me. I'm going to take something with me and I'm going to leave it behind. And if I come back and I don't have nothing with me, I've been somewhere, right? So I took something with me, left it behind, came back, didn't have it. Reverse has happened as well. I met Yogananda Parhansa. I don't know how you say his name, but anyway, I met this yogi in my dream, and not as an elder, but as a youth. He was in my dream. He may have been about 14 years old, and he took me through the ranks and elevated me through the ranks and through. As a reward afterwards, he gave me a necklace, and this necklace I came back with out of my dream with this necklace and showed it to a friend of mine and who was staying at the apartment that night. And so the majority of the things that I've encountered, I have had witnesses to. Another really, really, really quick thing before we go to the fifth word of wellness is that I have also had experiences with, oh, you know what, it just went out of my mind, and I know I've had tremendous amount of experiences. So if I remember it after my fifth word of wellness, then I will tell you about it. Oh, now I remember. Before the Matrix movie came out, there was a gentleman, in the same way Charlie was, Charlie had all of the things that I would want in my man, but I felt nothing for him. That's how I felt about Charlie. Like, why would I go out with a man that I really, but he kept expelling knowledge to me. He kept telling me things that kept drawing me in. I'm like, was a sponge. I'm like, because I told him, I says, I'm looking for more of the spirit. A closer walk with the spirit is what I said. So he was helping me with that. And so I kind of looked past all of the yucky feelings that I was having for him, but yeah, and we became very friendly and cordial and comfortable enough for him to, share with me. But there's another person that he was a very close friend of a friend of mine, and he befriended me and and he saw some of the super sensitivities that I had, and he had this, he would call me And when he would call, initially I didn't recognize what was going on, but I started, when he would call, as soon as I put the phone up to my head and say, thank you for calling, I can help you, immediately I would leave the vessel, something, the consciousness would leave the vessel, and I'd be off to some other places. And now it took several times for that to happen for me to realize what actually happened. So I told a friend of mine, this gentleman is a master sensei. He actually was a martial art teacher for me, had come up with his own martial arts. And I let him know, because there's certain people that don't believe in this kind of stuff, and I surrounded myself with people who do believe in this kind of potential. So I let him know that I was having these episodes, that something would happen as I would get the phone, and that for some reason, some kind of way, I would not remember anything until I realized I was actually hanging the phone up. And so I had just told him about this the week before, and then he came by the office and he saw me standing there stuck on stupid, or the deer in the headlights, and he decided to come in. And I had told him, I says, this happens, you take care of it, right? And so he came in. This is I'm a goddess and I'm a queen, so I gave him commands, and he stepped to it, talked to. Never happened again, right? And took the phone from me, handled his BI, hung the phone up, and it never happened again. But lo and behold, this person showed up one night at a place that I was at. He says, I want you to know I'm still watching you. And oh, you know what? I forgot something to tell you about Mr. Charlie. The reason why I believe these people are sent and or attracted or magnetized to my energy. But I believe Charlie. And Charlie said he was sent to deter me from my path. I'm a goddess. And so if I could send my thoughts from here around the world, ain't no stopping it now. It's on the move. So, but in any case, so I think I told you about my show this week, and that kind of reminds me of that, the oldies but goodies. So the impressions were there, the stylistics, Harold Melvin's Blue Notes, and the Real Deal Band. That's who I performed with. All right, so last thing is the fifth word of wellness, and that is flow. And so it started with hydrate, cleanse, tune in, set it and forget it, and flow. And so, I explained all of the others, but let's just say hydrate is more than just drinking water. The body is the largest organ. It does require to be, we are bodies of water, even though we are spiritual spirits in a human vessel. So we're a spirit body, a human body, and this human body is a body of water, a walking body of water. So it is influenced by the vibrations that we speak it or speak into it. And this word that I'm about to do on my fifth word, I'm sorry, after the fifth word of wellness, that word it will explain to you the power of speech and speaking and vocalizing, and how you activate your words, and how it is actually a spell or spelling. So, but in any case, so flow. So, feng shui is about flow. It's about the flow of the energy through the wherever, the facility, the location, the bedroom, the house, the yard, even your altar. So flow regarding energy. Once you've cleared the clutter, which is the same thing that detox is the second word. Once you start clearing the clutter and you start having clear highways and byways, you can have clear thoughts flowing. You can have your energy flowing a lot clearer. Your limbs and your body will respond a lot better. Your synapses will happen and a lot cleaner. And by the way, speaking of synapses, because we have a bioluminescence, and I had spoken to the fact that as a child, I was able to look in the mirror and see myself glow at night. But I also feel as though, when we are thinking and that synapses is happening, and you get the itch on your scalp, that energy is releasing, there becomes like a tingle on your scalp because of the energy that's being released. But it is, and if you're not sure, it's light. It's a light energy. It's almost like lightning. It's almost like there are storms that are going on, and like there's a separate atmosphere in the brain zone. So, and those are the squirrels up there. They are drawn to this particular room in the whole house. This is the only place where they're drawn. But in any case, so the bioluminescence increases when the body is ill, when we are trying to heal ourselves. The light gets brighter, and then it will begin to do the process, the natural process of healing, which, by the way, starts in your mind. It starts with your thinking. If you accept what the physician says, what your professionals say, if you accept it, then you've already said it and forget it. But if you don't accept it, if you do not, if you reject their response, if you decide, nope, that's not the case. And if you then are able to engage with yourself to say, hey, I am healed, I am whole, I am healthy, I am well. I am going to do all that I can to support that process, meaning I'm going to exercise, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to get my sleep, I'm going to now do things that help me with stressing, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to do mantras, I'm going to do a vision board, I'm going to do, my bucket list, because these are things that will help me to enjoy life more and have more joy in my life, and therefore emanate some of the other healing vibes. Laughter is medicine, is the best medicine. And it is very healing. So, one love and wellness, love plus art equals wellness. Let's see if we can get into this word. And what it is I would actually read the definition to you. My foot was telling me, don't do the word. Okay, I better listen. So maybe we'll do this in two parts. Maybe I'll tell you the word, and maybe next time we'll get into the fullness of it. Let's see if we can do this in two parts, because I also want to tell you about some of the episodes that have happened with me, and some matrix moments and those kinds of things. So I'll continue to have a segment on that, as well as words, as well as my poem, as well as astrology. So those are the categories that we'll continue with next time. And the next time that we get together, we will be working with the word tetragrammaton. I will tell you the definition of it, and we will have a discussion, and hopefully you will be able to hear some wise words that may give you some wisdom that may help you in your life. The young lady that I talked to today, I told her, I says, if I were able to hear some of the things that I know now at your age, I'd be cold with it. I'd be, the whippersnapper. So, one love and wellness. Let's see if we can get this last song to play for us. Let me give you a premise on this. This song was written by a gentleman named Rico. And he passed, but his brother wanted to, his brother J.J. Gray, who also recently passed as well, his brother wanted to memorialize him through this music that he had written. And so I then said that I wanted to memorialize my grandfather, because the name of the song that they had written was called Chicken Wing. And for me, I think it started as Salty and then it went to Chicken Wing. And so Chicken Wing, my grandfather was Ike and Tina Turner's manager. Tina Turner said the eulogy at his funeral. So, look, I'm so close. But so Tina Turner said the eulogy. Excuse me, by the way, I did one of her songs this weekend, tore it up, people came up on the stage and were, touching me. I mean, everybody was standing right in front of me, holding the camera up at me. And so, but after the song, man, they were touching me and hugging me, and that was nice. Oh, I ate that up. So, but anyway, so my grandfather also had Wings and Wings, Wings and Things, and Wings and More Wings. Those are 3 chicken joints here in DC. And so, and actually, Bill Cosby said that the place on 7th and T, which is where my grandfather's chicken spot was the first place he had tasted mambo sauce. And I grew up on a family making, my grandmother used to make all these sauces. I mean, bomb diggity. I still do sauces. My daughter does sauces. We do sauces because we were brought up on sauces. Mambo sauce was first done in the Patterson family in our Wings and Wings, Wings and Things, Wings and More Wings. But that's no problem. It's a worldwide thing now. I have no problem with my grandma's, not just her recipe, but what she brought to the chicken game now being an international thing. I got you. I will claim that energy. I don't have a problem with that. But anyway, talk to you soon. One Love and Wellness. This song is called Chicken Wing, and this is actually my version of it. We had Mousy Thompson that had done his version of it, which he is formerly James Brown's drummer. We also had J.J. Gray to do his own version. He's a saxophone and flute player with a very deep voice. Cornell did his own, Korn did his version. And then I did my version. And then the Secretary of Entertainment, bass player, producer, my producer, he actually got that name, Secretary of Entertainment, from Gil Scott-Heron. And so he, as the bass player, he had his own version as well, which is Thumping, Bumping, and Jumping. So, One Love and Wellness, let's go. Who that?
Shout out to Grandpa. Shout out to Grandpa.
That's it for today, folks. One Love and Wellness. Hey, there you go. Here we go. In London, Morocco, and Puerto Rico, Mississippi, Cincinnati, and my home DC. They're all doing the same thing. The dance we call the chicken wing.